guys, welcome back to The Common Theory. You've got myself, a sandwich, aka Rohan, or rather, Rohan, aka Sandwich. My God-given name is not a sandwich.
No, I'm pretty sure that's your government name. I've seen your birth record. It does say a single sandwich.
I did get a new driver's license actually this week, and it just says a sandwich. That's the first and last name. That's what's on it.
I mean, it's pretty good that you got a nickname of Rohan at least.
That's true. I'm glad that worked out for myself. Love that for me. Joining us is our buddy Franklin Conks. What's up, man? How was your week?
Pretty good. So this weekend was a Gator, Yami, Aaron, and I, and Chinaman also all went up to Fort Pierce for a CDH tournament up at Sky High.
Cool. That's Florida?
Yeah, that's in Central Florida. So actually, when you're going up to Orlando from Miami, I think it's exit 152 on the Turnpike.
Okay.
So when you get off of there, the Turnpike and I-95 are right next to each other. So you can just get off, hop on to the other one, and go all the way back up. Okay. I didn't know that Sky High was there for like the longest time.
Is that a store?
Yeah, it's a kind of a big store up in Central Florida.
Okay, got it.
They've been doing CDH monthlies there for quite a while. I just didn't know it existed until I think last year when Gator stopped by there and said, "Oh, hey, I just learned about this LGS right next to Cracker Barrel." And I was like, LGS next to Cracker Barrel in like Fort Pierce? I've never heard of this. I stop there all the time. And when I saw it on the map, I was like, how has this been here this whole time? I've never seen it. Yeah, we had a whole bunch of fun. Aaron came down from North Carolina.
Yeah, I saw the photos of the whole crew. Everyone's looking very handsome, very spiffy.
China got top 3 or top 4.
I was gonna say you all placed pretty well, from what I understand.
He did the best. I bubbled out of top 16. I am super upset about that. I wanted to get the top 16 portion because
what was your record? What did you go?
My record was 2-3-1.
Okay.
My only draw was to 3 of the people at the finals table. Yeah, was a Gator got 13th. China ended up in 3rd.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, this is what happens when you play Naughty. You just win.
I know this is a CPDH podcast and not a modern nor a CEDH podcast, but I have strong feelings on that card. They're not good ones.
I mean, the thumbnail, I've been producing the thumbnails for saying Civic Summer for a reason.
That's a piece of work, and I really hope that we don't get cards that are similar in the future. Cool, man. But yeah, that's pretty exciting. Congrats on your placement. Even though you bubbled out of top 16, it's still like top 20 is nothing to sneeze at. So
yeah, it was a 64-person tournament.
It's awesome. That's
yeah, so it's still pretty big.
Yeah, 2 wins still huge. Y'all are noticing that we're missing our third limb, Gator. He cannot join us tonight. It reminds us of a situation that I don't know if we often find ourselves in, but regularly find ourselves in tournament play when you are in a pod and you are down a person.
Yep. Because
how do you feel about that, Franklin? The dreaded 3-player pod. When you're down a man, see that in your tournament bracket. What do you think? What are the things that go through your mind?
Unfortunately, that happens because every tournament's always going to have entries that are divisible by 4, and sometimes we just don't want to give people buys. Depending on the event, the buy is either going to be. They do points weird at every event.
Buys are better when the tournaments are longer. Like in a 2-day, I think it's fine.
Oh no, in a 2-day, I would love a turn. I would love a round 1 buy.
Yeah. I mean, like, and they're less impactful, right? But when you have like a 16-player 3 rounds,
3 or 4 round tournament,
it's rough. A buy is not really tenable.
Then at that point, you might as well have at least try to play a game and try to win. Point-wise, they're slightly better than a draw, but again, draws are sometimes 1 or 0 points. But usually whenever I see that I'm in a 3-man pod, I'm just like, all right, 1, I got to win this for sure, so I don't have to deal with it ever again for the rest of today. It's the biggest problem, right? Like, you always have to try to win round 1 so your tiebreakers remain good because you only keep playing other players who have been winning throughout the day. So your tiebreakers get really good.
That makes sense. So what would you say your strategy is, like, when you go into a 3-person? Of course, like, you want to win, but are there any, like, table dynamics that you feel are at play that are different from, like, a 4-person table? And how do you mitigate that? I guess, and the follow-up question is, like, for the decks that you play, are they impacted by a 3-person pod any differently than a 4-player pod?
So with the decks that I mostly play with Abdel and Gut so far in tournament play, Gut loves 3-person pods because it's one less person I have to kill.
Yes.
But unfortunately, it does draw heat a little bit more. So I do have to say, like, hey, other person, there's a combo player at the table. Let me take care of him for you. And then I have to just, like, throw lightning bolts at their face and, little removal just to keep them in check.
Yeah.
For Abdel, fortunately, 3 players doesn't really affect the deck too much because I'm kind of already like a B player, not really using any sort of removal, not using that much interaction at the table. So it's almost like I'm not really there. I'm just like a very slow snowball about to come in to just wreck everyone's face. You, on the other hand, you play a deck that kind of does care about hitting other players.
That's true. When I go into a 3-person pod, I immediately just assume there's a 2v1 that's going to happen. It just kind of depends on who the threat is, right? And, like, for me, obviously you don't want to be on the business end of the 2v1,
Yeah.
There are decks, obviously, that can handle a 2v1, and you can build a deck in such a way that can mitigate a 2v1 better. Obviously, I think, like, actually, funny enough, I think Gut is actually a good example of a deck that can kind of deal with it, manage a 2v1. You've got so many protection spells.
It has a bunch of protection spells.
So
and
much.
Historically, Gut was designed to be a deck that would often get 3v1.
Yeah, exactly.
So taking less heat from a single player helps out the deck immensely.
Actually, yeah, that's one of the few decks I think can deal with it. And when I play Gut in a 2v1, I'm not that afraid. But when I play my main deck, Malcolm Breaches, I do not want to be 2v1'd. I can't really. I don't have the speed of like maybe a Malcolm Kedis or like a Laylor to just go under the other 2 players. I will get beaten to death. So that is usually means playing a slower game, focusing on pingers, just like hanging out and not dying. Hopefully one of the other 2 players at the table will take the charge and become the threat, which is when I played in Rich Strags in Philly a few months ago. My first round was indeed a 3v1, and it was myself on Malcolm Breaches, a Gretchen player who actually went on to win the tournament, and one of our friends on Larry. Shout out to Timmy. Gretchen was basically like going super hard, ramping super fast, trying to play like a fast game, trying to go under both. Obviously, Larry's an existential threat to the whole table, especially to Gretchen, because Larry's got to choose who to swing at. And as soon as they saw Land Enchantment on Tapper on the field, they just started swinging Larry and everything they had into Gretchen. So it immediately became like the 2v1 of me and Larry against Gretchen. Yeah, which is perfect. That's exactly what my deck wants. Unfortunately, at the end, I made an egregious error that cost me that match. Actually, numerous egregious errors all in one turn that cost me the match where I could have just won. But apart from that, it went quite well. And yeah, being able to steer Larry into Gretchen was super critical as far as navigating the 3v1. But
because again, you pointed out the obvious of Gretchen comes out faster.
Mm-hmm.
They have the landed tapper out. They're building up their land enchantment auras. I kind of hate saying, hey, they have freed in hand, but sometimes it happens. Politically, you use it to draw the heat away from yourself.
Yeah, I mean, a win could come down at any time, right? So question for you, Franklin, like, are there particular, if you're in let's say you're in a 3v1, a 3-person table, are there decks in the 3-person pod that you really, really, really don't want to play against. You're like,
Dargo.
oh no.
Dargo Caddis.
Dargo Caddis?
Yeah.
Yeah, say more.
It's already Dargo, and then you really have to pray to God that your other opponent, your other non-Dargo opponent, knows what to do and at least put up some sort of blockers against Dargo. Actually, no, because that's still a 3-person game. Because sometimes you just have a player who just gets openly hit by Dargo, and then all the splash damage happens anyway. But you have to just deal with the 1v1 Dargo, in which you're going to be actually have to take the commander damage. Yep. It's a 50-50 of, are you going to take the commander damage and actually be scared, or is the other opponent going to take the Dargo damage, and then you have to try to fight for, can I salvage some sort of win?
I have played a few 3-person pods with my Dargo Caddis list. I rarely win them, honestly. I think they're actually quite difficult for Dargo Caddis, because as soon as you're playing Dargo Caddis at the table, the other two players, no matter what, it doesn't matter what decks they're on. Someone could be on like Laylor.
You have the luck of
they
everything
don't care.
works.
They're immediately like, we need to kill Dargo. The Dargo player must die. Dargo can never resolve, or like, we need to bounce Dargo every turn. Like, we can't let this guy play because we're missing the fourth person, which means we have less interactions. So we really need to focus them down. And so I think a lot of people are like, oh, Dargo Caddis unga bunga. It just hits people. It's not true. There's a lot of politics that you really, really, really need to play when you're playing that deck to reassure people, like, look, I'm not the problem. I'm hitting everyone equally. I'm aiding and you make friends with the other aggro players. You're like, look, I'm helping you out. I'm making your life a lot easier.
I mean, that's what you should be doing, but
yeah.
Again, if it's a 3-person pod, you have Dargo out, you're going to say, hey, someone's going to take this commander damage. Don't take it personal. Just
you're playing Dargo. You're going to hit people, right? That's just the point of the deck.
Yeah.
Do you think it's actually quite difficult, especially if you're in a 3-man with two, you're playing Dargo Caddis and against 2 blue decks, and then your life is absolutely miserable?
No, from there you just shift over to the Pinger plan.
Yeah,
or to the Goblin plan.
Exactly. You have to switch over to the Pinger plan. Yeah.
Man, I'm just happy that I don't really have to play Malcolm too often in 3-person pods, or at least Malcolm Caddis in a 3-person pod, because then you have to adjust the math from hitting 3 people down to just 2.
Yeah.
And you're not ramping quite as hard.
Your strategy significantly changes. You know, it's taken me a while of playing Malcolm Breaches to really understand how to deal in the situation when 1 or 2 players are dead, and like how to adjust your, like what you need out on board and what you're looking for, your play patterns. And basically what it comes down to, for each person who's dead, you need more pingers who can be pirates on board. If you're in a 1v1, you have 3 pirates who you can turn all into pingers, you are set.
Well, I mean, if you're playing Malcolm Red and you have 3 pingers who are already pirates, I think you should win that one somehow.
Well, honestly, if you only have 2 against in a 1v1, it's still dicey. It's easy to brick, but I think 3 is a comfortable amount. Yeah, you should be winning that. This is how I feel, and everyone's different. But if you don't have a deterministic combo on board, obviously with like a Reckless Fireweaver type thing, or like Ingenious Artillerist. Yeah, or Ophidian other one, you could draw your own deck. You need 3 pingers who are pirates with Malcolm and Breaches out to do the thing.
Yeah, makes sense.
To at least hope to try and win. And even then, you can brick against, if you're playing against just like a deck with like 50 creatures and 30 lands.
Yeah, that is unfortunate that I just realized that on Spell Table and on all of the LFG channels, it's kind of difficult to set up a 3-person pod, because normally the Spell Table bot only fires off with 4. So you have to make sure that the other 2 people are okay with this. Hey, do you mind practicing just 3? In person, it's a lot easier because you're just like, hey, we don't have a 4th. We need to jam in games. Yeah, because that's what we do whenever I go over to Gator's house, and it's just me, Gator, Yami, or me, Gator, and China.
You guys play a lot of 3-people pods in person?
Not too often, but again, it happens like a couple times a month.
Mm-hmm.
So like maybe one day someone's missing.
Kind of leads us into our next topic. When you guys play, and you're playing a 3-player, do you ever just, because it's 3-player, do you ever just shift to playing casual instead of competitive?
Not really, because it's always that same competitive mindset, especially with Gator.
Yep.
Even though he's not here to really defend himself, he and I both struggle with trying to play casually.
Tell me about that. Tell me more. Like, what's going through your head? Why do you feel that way? Like, what are the things about competitive play that you can't not do?
Yeah, because we're playing a game. Usually the objective of games is to win. And that's the biggest issue that I personally have with Commander sometimes, is that other people say, like, oh, but you have to think about everyone else having fun. And I'm like, well, unfortunately, me having fun means I'm winning, or at least I'm attempting to win. Like, you throwing interaction in my way is fun. Having giant stat wars is fun. Having to navigate through weird puzzles that people set in front of me as obstacles is fun. Was more casual games. Everyone decides to just build like the Rube Goldberg IKEA machine on the board. And then they get upset if you counter anything or, do a fourth board wipe. It just takes forever. Because, like, sure, you wipe the slate clean and I have to rebuild for like a million times. But, like, that's not really fun.
Yeah, but, like, I mean, that doesn't really happen. I don't know if that really happens in PDH, right? We don't really have true board wipes. I mean, we have semblance.
No, but
we have pestilence. So
yeah, I was going to say, because Gator also likes to say that pestilence is not a casual card in this format.
It's not a casual card.
No, because, like, what can people do against pestilence? We only have like 2 colors that really effectively remove enchantments, and no one really runs enchantment removal in green or white.
Maybe they should.
I mean, we had backgrounds running wild for a while. I
don't know if the S tiers are changing. Obviously things have changed. We talked about tier lists and all that, but I think we're seeing in the middle tiers, like the B tiers, the C tiers, the B plus tiers, A minus tiers, we're seeing a lot more green and white representation. We're seeing a lot more of Voltron, I think, coming back. Like the Wilson list, the Wilson Far Traveler list is like it's an enchantment travel deck, basically.
Yeah,
right.
That is a very fun Voltron deck.
We saw a Cutzel list perform very well at Sanctuary, right? Very recently. It's also very similar. It's like enchantment tribal. It's all about buffing up its creatures and getting 1/1 counters on stuff and swinging.
Oh yeah, when you were at Philly, how was the Patchwork Automaton? Because I found one in my bulk and I finally read it and I was like, oh wait, it gets stronger for every artifact you play?
Yeah, I actually never played against it, so I actually don't know. I mean, I saw the games. It certainly performed. It did the thing, but it had no interaction. The Philly meta was just weird. It's very different from the Sanctuary meta. It was very interaction light. There were very few combo decks. People just weren't ready for combo decks. And their sort of philosophy of when there is, because so few people play combo lists. When there is someone who's playing a combo list at the table, that person gets singled out really quickly. And so
that makes sense.
Their interaction against combo is player removal. Combo player? Yeah, all 3 of us are just going to kill you first. Which, hey, no hate for me. I'm not salty about that. I'm not going to hate on that. I think it's whatever works. You play to win. Like you said, right? Like we play competitive because it's play to win. There's no like feel bads. It's just like,
and that's the other reason to why I just prefer competitive, because there's no rules you'll talk. You just show up with your deck and be like, all right, here we go.
I have a question for you. All right, did you ever play? And this is like it might seem tangential, but it's related. Did you ever grow up playing fighting games?
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like.
Sick.
Yeah, exactly. So something that I would get sometimes with people who don't play fighting games all too often is saying, "Hey, don't put me in the corner. I can't get out of here." I'm like, well, sorry, I'm gonna put you in this corner and just throw you and just through wall loops.
Yeah,
it's not my fault you don't know how to play this game.
Yeah, I'm assuming did you play competitively?
Only for like a short period of time between 2009 and 2012.
Cool. If you don't mind me asking, I'm just curious what games.
Yeah, so Street Fighter 4 and Marvel 3.
Hell yeah.
Because again, during that time frame, what other games were there?
That's my shit. Yeah, so like I played Magic on and off like through middle school and high school, but I took a long break, and the break was really because of fighting games. It kind of filled a void in my life, and I was a very serious Street Fighter 4 player, also Marvel 3, but Street Fighter 4 specifically. Like I went to Evo a few times.
Oh, nice.
To play. Yeah, it performed pretty well. I made Vega and DeCapre later when she came out, pretty highly ranked on the boards for Vega. But as a Street Fighter player, especially, did you ever get around to reading the Domination 101 article series by Seth Killian?
No, unfortunately, I haven't. Like that was something I've always been meaning to do. Like read a whole bunch of Seth Killian articles and then read the guy who made Yomi.
I thought Yomi was a Japanese thing that came from like early Japanese players from Street Fighter 2 days.
So that's where it came from originally, but I meant the guy who developed the PC game Yomi. And the card game Yomi.
Game. Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about like the actual like term.
No, that's like Okami. That entire term is just about was it wake up and how to and all of your wake up.
It's just mind game. It's the rock paper scissors mind game.
Yeah, I need to go look it up, and I know Puzzle's probably yelling at me because he knows exactly who I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know.
And I can't go look it up on my computer because my keyboard's on the other side of the camera.
But yeah, so one thing I recommend this. I'd recommend you check out this article series. Now, I think it's relevant for anyone who plays anything competitively, especially any kind of competitive game. I think it very much applies to competitive Magic. But yeah, check out, and this is for all the listeners, just Google Seth Killian Domination 101, and you can find on like Rising Thunder fandom or something. It's like
no, it should be like. I'm pretty sure it's still on the SRK forums if they still exist.
No, it's not there anymore. Yeah, it's been moved, but now there's a place where you can find it. We can. I wonder if we can drop the link in our description.
Yeah, I'll put in. We'll throw in the description.
That'd be awesome. We can throw in a link in there for you. Yeah, read the first couple. You don't have to read the whole series; it's kind of long, but maybe read the first couple articles. It's from a web series, like a web article series that Seth Killian wrote way back in the 90s when he was playing CVS, Capcom versus SNK, because a lot of people would complain about some of the moves that some of the characters had, especially like characters like Chun-Li, like their low strong, which is like unbeatable. There was
that's Cammy's low strong, I think.
Okay, low strong, yeah. It just felt like really cheap, right?
And it's plus 10 frames on hit. You can do whatever you want.
And I'm sure for those of you who have played fighting games, you've played, in the living room, especially when you were kids, with your one buddy who just spammed the one attack that you're like, what the hell? This attack is so broken. I'm just sitting here blocking. I can't do anything. And then every time I try and do my own move, I just get hit. And I hate this. Like this is dumb. For the listeners out there, I highly recommend checking out Seth Killian's Domination 101 series. We'll drop the link in the description here.
That was his book that I was trying to remember, which is David Sterling's Playing to Win.
Playing to Win. Yep. Yeah, Playing to Win is much less. It's really long. It's the whole thing. It's a great read, though. I'll also recommend that. But definitely check out Seth Killian's Domination 101 series. It's short. It's great. It's like, let me see, it's 1, 2, 3, it's 9 articles. You don't have to read them all. Read maybe the first 3 or 4. But what I was saying before is that if you ever played a fighting game against a friend back in the day who would just spam the one attack and you were like, this attack is broken, this is busted, I can't beat it, this is so stupid, I just keep losing to this one. He's just spamming the one attack. He's a spammer, right? The stupid spammer. What a scrub, right? So in the competitive fighting game community, we, because of Seth Killian's terminology, we've called that a scrub mentality. So you don't want to be a scrub. Yep. If you're a scrub, basically you're someone who complains about something being cheap. And you can apply that very much to Magic the Gathering and competitive Magic. It's like, if you play against like a Gretchen or a Weavers or these combo decks that seem blazingly fast and they seem super broken and busted. I mean, they're pretty broken. I'm not going to lie to you.
Well, but yeah, we're still in the middle of Simic Summer right now.
But they're not unbeatable, right? So instead of complaining about how like this S tier deck is just too strong and complaining about how it needs bans, which is like what Seth Killian would call the scrub mentality. He recommends that learning how to beat it. There are ways to beat it. Like Street Fighter, Magic is still like a rocks, paper, scissors type of game, right? Certain things beat other things, and they're designed to beat other moves, other cards, other strategies.
Yeah, even in Pauper, there's still a whole bunch of cards that just beat other cards.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, again, if we're in a meta where it's enchantment heavy, there's a whole bunch of green-white enchantment removal. If you're in red and blue, good luck to you. Just win faster.
Yeah, Boomerang exists.
It does.
I play it.
It's some permanent removal.
It's good.
It's temporary, but it'll get rid of it.
And you have counterspells in blue, so like just don't let the enchantments hit the table. Don't let them resolve. That's how you win.
So what I went off to go grab is actually this old SRK shirt that says there are no bad matchups.
Classic. That's a Broken Tier shirt, I believe. Broken Tier did those for SRK. Yeah. Because I think I owned that one in like the old cross counter shirt. Oh, love it, man. Mike Ross and Gutex. Yeah. Takes me back, way back.
Bro, it's so funny, right? With all these Zoomers and Gen Alpha kids, whenever they see the Pog face, they're like, "Oh, that's the Pog face guy." And me, it's like, "No, that's Ryan Gutex."
Yep, it's Ryan Gutierrez. Yeah, old Gutex. Don't be a scrub, right? That's basically the philosophy here. Don't be a scrub. And like, he's not like Seth isn't trying to be like, oh, like if you don't ever complain, like he's not trying to be like throw some boomer shit on you and be like, kids these days, they're always complaining. It's not like that. Like his argument is that you're spending all this time complaining, but if you took that time and instead of just talking about how broken this other card is,
if you just lab it out, you'll figure out.
Lab it out?
Yeah, you'll find it out.
And like, what's like in fighting games, one of the best ways, if not the best way to learn how to beat a problematic character is to play that character yourself. You're struggling with Gretchen? Are you struggling with Weavers? Are you struggling against Malcolm Kedis or Malcolm Breaches? Pick the deck up. You don't even have to like build the deck. I mean, we have Moxfield. You just literally go and goldfish someone's list. Look up the tournament.
Yeah, and
play their list.
And in all of the servers that we're in, you could just tag the person who plays the deck and just ask them questions.
Yep.
And that's like the perfect segue to our next segment of the decks that we play. Because we both play a Malcolm variant. We both play Abda. We both play Gut.
Oh, let me put it back on you. Why did you choose those decks in particular?
Unfortunately, the cop-out answer is Gator had the decks. I borrowed them. I played them. I like how these play. They just do what they need to do and they just win.
That's fair. Gator's a great player. Some of the best ways to figure out what you want to play is to look at who's winning and
it's what we just said. It's like I have a local resource who just so happens to be Gatorbait.
I mean, it's kind of funny that you say that, right? Because if you go, and I hate to keep going back to fighting games, but my histories in competitive gaming is really so tied to Street Fighter, and I kind of view everything in that very specific lens. And I think it's just so applicable, actually. But back in the day, in the 2000s, in Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter and Third Strike, Marvel 2 and Marvel 3, there were parts of the country who became specialists in certain characters. And it's because, people would show up to locals. So I'm in the New York City area. I would go to Chinatown Fair. I'd go to Next Level,
you lucky bastard.
Ass absolutely whooped. Back in the when I played Marvel 2, Justin Wong would just literally just wipe my butt all over the floor.
Yeah, bro.
The locals, and it's you're oh, okay, damn, I just got ripped apart. I got my butthole torn asunder by MSP, by Magneto's Storm Psylocke, and oh, I clearly need to learn this. If I don't learn this, I'm going to repeatedly die every week, and I'm going to waste all my fucking quarters. How many lawns do I have to mow before I can actually play again? Because I'm just going to get all my quarters taken.
Yeah, that's why. I just remembered that you live up there, so you're lucky that you had that experience.
Yeah,
being down here in South Florida.
Well, you guys had what's the golf place course that had an arcade?
Yeah, I never got around to going there in my time.
It's in Orlando, maybe.
I have to look it up because I know there used to be one in Miami, and then got turned into those little arcade.
Because there's a pretty big
in malls of America. Yeah, in Central Florida. Yeah, that's where, because you have Tampa and they have Tampa Never Sleeps.
Yeah.
CEO every year
is in Orlando, right?
It used to be in Orlando. I think they moved it over to Daytona. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to attend. I want to, but I also have to like practice a lot.
Yeah. We're too busy playing Magic. I guess my point is that like since you and Chris are local to each other, after you get beaten by Abdel a certain amount of times, you're probably like, oh yeah, I gotta pick this deck up. I gotta learn how to play it. I gotta understand why I'm getting my butt whooped. Is that?
Yeah, it's the best way to learn the pinch points. Abdel pinch points is whenever Abdel ETBs or whenever Abdel is being targeted for a flicker. Weaver was it Simic pinch points is whenever they try to go to untap, you have a slight little window to go for there, and then you're set. And for a Gut, you can kind of bully Gut forever, but Gut also needs to be your friend at the table. If not, you're going to die to someone else.
That makes sense. I mean, I'm not too dissimilar as far as like how I chose the decks. I mean, somewhat. Gut for sure. I think I looked up a tier list back in the day. Our German friends,
the old Crash tier list,
tier list, and it was on there, and it was one of the only aggro decks on there. First, like 2 CPDH decks were Izlain Mage and Gut, because they're both on the list. Izlain Mage because I play Kark Sakashima and CDH, and that's kind of I feel like that's the closest.
It's close enough.
It's the closest analog. It's not really Storm, but you copy spells, right? Is it copying spells? And then they picked up Gut as like a secondary because I wanted to play an aggro deck that seemed good. Then Gator also happened to have a list that was really good. And this is before I really knew Gator. I knew of him, but I didn't really talk to him or play. I hadn't played any games, but he had the most viewed list on Moxfield.
Yeah, so
looked at that and made a bunch of changes to it for my.
Yeah, so with that, actually, when Gator and Aaron were building out the list, I always keep an exact copy of their list and just play it. Just to make sure, like, hey, this is all the information of what I'm getting. Please use it for whatever you need, whatever you guys need.
My list is very different from theirs, actually, which is interesting. I think there's probably like a 30 card difference.
Wow, that is huge.
Yeah, it's quite different.
Yeah, because I know recently they revamped it so to make turn 2 Gut more viable.
I don't think I have any MH3 cards in my list yet.
Man, you're missing out on the new white living weapon card.
There's a bunch.
It's mostly the new living weapon card, which I forgot the name of. It's something Mandible.
Mandible, the flying.
Mandible.
I have a card. I have to put it in the list. I haven't made that adjustment yet.
Yeah, so another living weapon is insane for the deck because Flare Husk is already crazy.
Crazy.
And then imagine if the equipment is just naturally better because it gives flying. And then Jolted Awake just being a little energy payoff to just bring back either a small dork or an artifact is great.
Yes, that also needs to go on my list. Can't bring back Gut, though, which is unfortunate.
No, but bringing back a prize statue? Ginger Brute seems pretty good.
Or a Flag Bearer.
Flag Bearer's great.
It's huge. Stop the Simic bullshit. We're talking about like playing around, Simic combo decks. So that card.
It also
Abdel.
slows down, not Abdel. Some of Abdel flickers only target themselves.
Your own. Yeah,
it slows down Flicker of Fate and Planar Incision. I was going to say it slows down
Drake
Malcolm Red. No, Malcolm Red. Because all of the type changers target anything.
Of the 3 decks that you mentioned, Abdel Blue, Gut Leader, and
Malcolm
Kettis. Which do you play the most? Which are you the most comfortable with? And how many games do you know? How many games you played with that deck?
I probably feel most comfortable with Abdel Blue because that's what I always bring to tournaments all the time. Like I can probably pilot that deck very well in my sleep. But for like probably most played at this point is probably Malcolm Kettis. Yeah, because that's a deck I like to bring whenever I had to play a quick game somewhere.
Yeah.
At like either the LGS or like I'm just bored online. Thursday nights, like I have to wait for people to come back home.
Why do you reach for that more often than Abdel?
It ends games on turn 5 consistently.
This is faster.
Yeah, because mechanically speaking, you don't have to show people the loop and explain. No, because Ghostly Flicker hit the graveyard. That's why I could get it back with Archaeomancer.
Yeah, the commander's also not 5 CMC.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. That doesn't really matter. It's Abdel.
It does though. It changes how quickly. If Abdel costs 3, I think the deck would be significantly faster.
Abdel's text would also change a lot.
I actually think that deck would be pretty busted if he was 3 CMC. It would be. It would be maybe the best deck in play. So, do you have any plans on a next deck, or are you planning on just grinding these 3 into dust?
Probably just going to end up picking some sort of Simic deck, like either Simic Weavers deck. Or Gretchen. Yeah. Again, we're living in
the new one, the Flicker guy, the 4-mana, the frog.
Maybe we have to still play test it a lot more. Like that still requires a lot more testing to just like verify that yes, we can hit these lines consistently. Yes, this does work how we think it does. Even if we do like falter somewhere where like it's missing a draw engine or something, even though we hit the infinite mana, at least we can still do something. The tuning part where it is right now, I believe.
Man, it's so funny. Like I feel like you and I have a very similar taste in decks, clearly. And I'm in the same boat as you. My next deck will probably be Weavers, even though, like, I'll share a secret with you. I hate playing Simic in Magic. It has nothing to do with Pop, PDH, or Commander, or whatever. In general, in Magic, it's just my least favorite color combination by, like, a lot. I just find it to be boring. With that said, I do play pre-modern, and my only pre-modern deck is Simic. It's Simic Madness, which is just very different. It's like an aggro tempo deck. That deck is super fun. It's so sick. I digress.
How does that work? You just drop in a whole bunch of root wallows?
Oh, yeah. It's classic. It's like classic Odyssey through like Onslaught, like and Torment, like all those cards, like that era. Yeah, root wallows. You're playing. What's the wolf, the dog that changes colors when you discard? Wait. Here we go. Oh, it's a Wild Mongrel.
Wow. Oh, it's Wild Mongrel. Okay.
Yeah. That's the only Simic deck I really played. However, that said, it's like I was saying before about the Seth Killian fighting game thing. If you really want to learn how to beat a deck, play the deck. I personally feel that the Simic decks are maybe on a different level than most, if not every other deck. And I think they're the decks to beat. And I think the best way to learn how to combat them is to play them. And so that is why I think my next deck is going to be Weavers. And as far as like Weavers versus Gretchen, I think they're both honestly equally good for the most part.
We'll save that for our tier list video.
Yeah. And there's slight differences in where they have advantages. Like Gretchen can play a longer game, Weaver's a little bit more explosive. I just find it to be more interesting, personally, because it's a little bit more explosive. You can build it a little faster.
Yeah, and I played Gretchen for like about a month. Yeah. And I got bored of it because it's weird because like on paper, both decks feel like they should be the same, right? But Weavers feels like you're doing something every turn. Gretchen just feels like you're not doing anything.
And I think that's why they appeal to kind of a different person and a different play style. If you just want to play control Magic, you want to land go, right? And just do that, then Gretchen is it's a perfect choice. If you're trying to be a little bit more aggressive and just like you're someone who just wants to do stuff, I think Weavers is the better choice.
Yeah, because how Gator explained it to me, because I wanted to play Kinnan in CEDH for a long time, he was just like, oh no, Weavers just gets your Kinnan fix. I'm like,
yes,
it does.
I agree. I totally agree with that. A proactive deck versus a reactive deck. And that's also why I would rather build Weavers and just more into a more proactive deck in general versus like something that's a little more chill. With that said, I do play as a guild mage, but like while it's like I think the interaction's cool and I love it mechanically, the play pattern is just like boring.
Yeah, I mean it was the same thing when I was playing was it Scholar of the Ages for again another month. I was like, okay, let me grind out this deck. Let me see if I actually like it. I kind of already knew I didn't like it, but at the same time, it's so much fun when you get to your combo turn.
Oh yeah,
you get to do the thing.
But you're gonna have 9 turns of land go.
I was like, deploy a rock, play a land.
Yeah, rock go.
Rock. I'm gonna merchant score for a high tide.
Yeah.
And then everyone prepares themselves for like the next turn, or they just totally forget that you have high tide.
You're just living. The Scholar players are just living for the one turn they get to play high tide. That they're just waiting. They're like, all right, thank God, yes, let's go.
It's like high tide. It resolves. All right, cast Scholar. It resolves.
Every Scholar player ever. I wish I could get a montage of this, of just like of them being shocked when high tide resolves. Because it's the same hilarious like like tone in their voice and like sort of they're like, high tide?
Yeah.
It resolves? And everyone's like, I guess. And they're like, oh. It's like they didn't think that like obviously they know how their combo works, you know? But it's like their brain just breaks for a split second after they're like, but how?
Yeah. Because honestly, oh my god. Because I remember one game, and this is why I kind of got off of Scholar, is I cast High Tide, and I forget that Mizu had a single island open. So when I went to go try to start my combo, he was like, tap the island, counterspell. I was like, damn it, that's right. High Tide affects all islands.
Indeed it does. So it's so good.
Yeah, so that's why Mizu won that common cause, because he learned from me and he learned from my mistakes.
Islands are OP. High Tide question. You do not play High Tide in Abdel, correct?
We did for like about a month.
I remember talking to Gator about that.
Yeah.
I remember I'm like, what do you think? But I'm like, what do you think about, because Chum and I were talking. We were talking about, we're like, High Tide's sick, right? It's like the best ritual in the game. Like, if High Tide's just like the best ritual in the game, would you play the best ritual in the game in Abdel, or like?
Yeah, just out with the High Tide package, we were running. I think we took out.
Yeah, you end up playing all these bad cards, or like bad for Abdel, good for other decks. Like you end up playing because you want to play like because you're already playing Archaeomancer, so you want to play like Snap and try to do like Archaeomancer Snap loops with High Tide, right? And you're like, but Snap kind of sucks in that deck.
You don't really need to at the same time because you just have Abdel. But we also try to fit in, was it Elsewhere Flask? It's really nice because it says for 2 mana ETB, it's a 2 mana artifact that says ETB draw a card, which is just nice for Abdel. So baseline, it's a cantrip. And then it says, I think tap, sack it, turn all of your lands into whatever basic land type. Yeah, so it turns all of your lands into islands. So you can just recast Abdel just off of, just off of the High Tide.
If there are Abdel players out there listening to this this episode, if you play High Tide, please let us know in the comments how that's working for you.
We know one who does. That's a Purple Penguin Joe.
Oh, he plays High Tide. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
He plays some spicy cards in his list. I remember someone, I think it might have been Chum, asking Purple Penguin Joe like where they found their list. Like Chum was like, did you make a copy of Gator's list? And
oh no, that was me. I asked.
Oh,
him.
Was it? Yeah.
I asked him after.
He was like, no, I just looked up the cards and put them in there. I was like, oh shit.
No. I had to ask him after a round in Sanctuary.
That's what
it was like. Oh, hey, this looks very similar to what we had built for a while.
Yeah, they run a bunch of very different spicy cards though. All right, man. I think that kind of brings us to a close. You know, we got deep on Abdel. We talked about competitive play, and we covered the 3-man problem, the 3-person problem.
Yep. And with that, I wanted to thank all of our lovely patrons. We actually just hit 300 subscribers over on YouTube very recently.
Thank you.
So if you're not subscribed, just hit like, subscribe, hit the bell for the notifications. All of our episodes go live every Monday morning at 10 Eastern. I've been putting out shorts, and they've been doing very well. Those tend to go live at 6 on the weekdays. And we actually have a TikTok channel now.
Yeah, hit us up on TikTok. What's the handle?
It's Common Theory CPDH.
Great. Cool.
So with that, thank you, everyone.
Yep.
Have a great rest of your days.